Welcome back to the SSAS and MDX sessions. So in this session, we're going to discuss about functions related to the date dimension. As I mentioned while we're discussing about about SSAS concepts or SSAS dimension objects, I told you clearly that date dimension is very important in SSAS because most of the analysis will be done by time. So let's start with our basic query. So this gives me like profit, and let me use invoice date for everything, and let me take a particular year. Let's say, for example, I'm going for 2015, comma on 1. So this should return me 2015 data. And you all know how to go back by 1 year and go back by what you call next year and so on, right? So I hope you still remember the functions. Dot pre-member, which will take you 1 year back. I mean, it will take you to 2014. Similarly, you are very familiar with the next member, right? Which will take you to next year, like 2016. So if I execute all the three by separating the queries with a go statement, and it gives you the year 2015, year 2014, and year 2016 because I've used two functions. What is the other one? I think it's hiding somewhere here. Let me go down, let me scroll down, and you can see all the three queries are written. The first query, I used only the member 2015. It is giving me 2015 data. The second query, I used member with the function previous member. It returns me 2014 data. And the third one, next member function I used, and it's returning me 2016 data. That is one member ahead of the member that I've provided. I've provided 2015 as my input, and the next member is 2016. Now you can specify what you call. You can also use parallel period. So the parallel period function, which frequently used in date dimensions or while calculating the KPIs. You remember in the KPIs we have two key properties. One is status and another one is trend. In trend, people use parallel period because they want to see how it is trending from last year to current year value. I mean current year by sales or by profits or whatever. So if I go to parallel period, it takes three parameters. One is level, and another one is the integer value, and the third one is a member by which you have to go back or go forward. So if you see, the first one is the level expression, as I mentioned, and the second one is index, and the third one is member expression. So when you have it in square brackets, that means it's optional. A valid multi-dimensional expression that returns a level and an index, and it's a member expression. Let's see a simple example here. Let me take, or how can I, shall I take a month, or, okay, let me take an year. So I'm copying the same query, and I'm not using any function. Parallel period, and I told you the first parameter is level, and let's see what it's gonna return when I pass. See, if you see the parameter, I mean the syntax here, it says that level expression. In that you need to have index, and in that if you have a level expression, you need to have index, and if you have index, you need to have a member expression. So when I provide only the level expression, it's not returning anything because it's looking for index now. So when I provide index, then it looks for a member. So let's show a simple example. Before that, let me comment out this as parallel period, and the index is I'm giving as 1, and I'll go for a member. I'll give member 2015. So if I execute it, if you see, it's going back by parallel period. It goes back by 1 year and it gets the value from there. If I specify -1, you can go to the future dates also. If I specify -1 instead of 1, it will go forward by one member. That's what I specified. Now, if I give if I give 2, it will go back by 2 periods. If it is available, then it returns the data, else it's return null value. So here the data is available for 2013. So it is going back by 1 year and 2 years and getting the data. Now this is how it happens. This is more like next period, previous period, or lag or lead, something like that. Now let's see something different in the same parallel period function. So here I have quarter, and here instead of year, let me give a different number. Let's say, what the heck, this is date. I want to go by month. So let's say 2015, and what it's going to return? Any guess? So if you see, it has gone back by this value, whatever specified in this one. So I specified go back by 2 years and give the value, give the equivalent member or the parallel member of the member that I have provided in the third parameter. So this is where the difference comes between the parallel period and using the previous member, next member, lag, and lead. If you see previous member, next member, lag, and lead, it will go back or it will go forward by n number of values on the same level, right? But here, if you see, I'm going back by 2 years for the member that I have specified here. So all the 3 parameters plays a major role here. Particularly the index, this specifies how many values I have to go back or go forward, and by what value I have to go back, by what level I have to go back. If I specify 2 and if I specify year here, it will go back by 2 years. Okay, and what value I have to go back. So I want to go back by April. I mean by the month April. So if you take the hierarchy, this is all. This is 13, 14, 15, and 16, 4 years data, and everything will have its 12 months, right? And this is for 2015. And when I specified go back by 2 years, this will go back by 2 years and go and land here. And then what member you want to go back by? I want to go back by April. The member is April. I specified in the third parameter of the function. So it will go and get the April of the year, which is 2 years behind the member that I have specified here. I specified 2015. So it will go back. So in short, what it will do is this member, parent is here. So this will go back by 2 years and get the same member here, right? April, parent is 2015, go back by 2 years, that is 2013, and the April or the same parallel period means same period in that particular member or in that particular year will be returned. So that is what it means, the function means. So all the 3 parameters are very important. So this specifies what is the member that you're looking for, or what is the member that you want the parallel period to be retrieved, and it will go to that parent, and it won't go to the parent. Whatever the level you specify here, it will go to that level of this member. So this is April. April belongs to which year? This belongs to 2015 and go back by 2 years. So it will go to 2013 and get me the parallel member for this April over there. So that returns you April of 2013, what you are seeing in the results there. So let's see a little bit different query here. Let me give -1 as the input. So this will go one. It will take the member April and it will go to this level of April. What is the year level of this April? This is 2015, and -1 means it will go forward, which means it will go to 2016 and it will try to get the April of 2016. And if I execute it, this should return April of 2016. So what will happen if I don't have a member? Like for example, if I specify 12, I'm pretty sure for 2016 I don't have 12 member, I mean the December value, so it returns null. So the member is available in that dimension, but there is no fact data available for that. So this is how you can go back by any level of your wish for a member that you have specified by any index value, any number. Now let's see a better example. I don't have a big hierarchy here like quarters, semesters, and so on. Let me do with what I have here. So I'm giving 1 year, go back, and let me give, I'm giving a specific date now instead of a month. The date is 10th of Jan 2013. So I'm telling the server to go back by 1 year. I'm pretty sure there is no data for 2012, and even the attribute members are not available for the calendar hierarchy. So it won't return anything. Now, if I use the same to give -1, so starting from the member, it will go to the year level. So 2013 Jan 10th belongs to the year 2013, and it will go forward by 1 year. That means 2014, and it will get the parallel period, the period at this level for the 2013. So these functions are pretty much used for date dimension because it's date is the only one which is constant and which will be having the same lower levels, or the what you call, yeah, say every year we'll have the same number of semesters, same number of quarters, same number of months, same number of days, this kind of things, right? So if I give -1, it will give me the data for the Jan 10th of 2014. So this is how the level you specified is used to take this to go this value to that level and forward by this number, and then get me the parallel period at this level. So this kind of function is very useful when you're doing something like year on year, or quarter on quarter, month on month, and so on. Let's say you have this year 2013 value or sales, and if you want to compare it with the previous year sales, then you can use this parallel period function to get the previous year same period sales. So that divided by this gives you what is the difference between, or what is the percentage, or whatever, year on year, month on month, member on member, whatever the name you call. So if in those functions, in those scenarios, you need to go back or go forward by a member at a certain level, then parallel period is a very useful function. So let's see other functions which I like most when I have to work on a lot of calculations. One among them is not closing period, definitely closing period. So this closing period will give you the last, as the name says, it gives you the closing period of any hierarchy level or any member level that you have, that you provided as an input. It takes only one parameter as input, and it gives you the closing period. So let me take this example, sample query, and instead of here, if I don't know until what extent I have data, see, we are in 2018 now, but the data available in wide world importers database is only up to 2016, right? So you don't know up to what level you have, what member you have data. So you can use the closing period to get your hierarchy closing period, which means what is the last member that you have in the closing period, in a particular level. So if you execute this closing period for a year, oops, it expects a level. I have given something weird. It should not be this. Okay, so let me go for this now. So it is giving you the last member that available in the closing in the calendar year is unknown. That is why it is written in this. So this is how the closing period works. So we have some unknown members. That's why it's written in the last one. So let's try to do something. Generally we don't go for unknowns. We will have our data warehouse defined very cleanly. Dot item of 0. Don't worry about this item of 0. I hope this returns some useful information. So this is giving me the previous member. So what it means is, this is giving me whatever the last member that is available in the particular hierarchy. If I go here, this is what I mean. Unknown is the last member. So I'm taking the unknown member item of 0, which means the first value, and then going to the previous member of it. That should return me 2016. Generally, when you don't have this unknown, which you won't define for the calendar dimension, definitely you will be getting the closing period. What is the last month or year or date that is available in the cube, sorry, in the dimension. So let's try without the item of 0. This should work. Okay, this is also working. This returns one member closing period, and I'm going to the previous member of it. This is the last member that is having some data, right? And in general, this previous member is bullshit. You should not use that for getting the last period, but just because we have unknown, I'm trying to get the previous value. So always when your dimension is when the date dimension will be created until 2020 or 2030, you don't create the date values every day. Whenever you load the data, the dates will be loaded very much in advance. Like when they start from 2010 to 2020, they create and they will maintain the dimension up to 2020. That's a general practice, okay? Because they don't want to create the date dimension or add the rows to the date dimension whenever the date turns into the next one. Let's say, for example, today is Feb 4th, right? So they don't wait for Feb 4th to load the data of Feb 4th into the dimension. Dimension can have excess records, it can have future records, it can have past records. It's not going to harm. The value, the data that matters is the fact data, right? So in general, the practice is to load the data for at least 1 year in advance, okay? So at the start of 2018, they'll load the date dimension until 2018 December 31st. At least that's how the practice is. So when you go for closing period, it will give you the last non-empty value or last value that is available. So for the year, unknown is the last member available. So I've never tried that. Let me quickly try something. So with this closing period, can I use non-empty? Because I don't want to see the null values. There should be definitely a way of doing that. If I use the non-empty, will it return? So the closing period expects a function, but a level expression for the first argument, a tuple or set was passed. So this is not going to work. So how can I avoid null values? I don't want to see the null values. I want to see what has some data at the end. What member is there in the calendar dimension or date dimension with some data. The closing period gives you, even though it's a null or whatever the member that is available at the end. If you see the month, it will give you unknown, but I want to see December or November or October, which has some data. There is a way. I tried that. Let me try it again. Maybe let me try with the last periods to get the last not null values. Last periods of 1 comma, you have to specify how many last periods you want. If you're using last periods, expects a member expression for the second argument. No, this will not help. How can I get that? Let me try that. Let me Google it. I'm not getting that far. It's not on top of my mind. Let me Google it real quick. I did some shit work, but this is not the best way of doing it, definitely. So I tried to use last periods of 1, which gives me the last 1 period. I will discuss about the last periods function, and I'm using filter, and let's see. I have to get the last value. So I'm getting the tail of it. Actually speaking, this should give me, even without the last periods, this should give me the value that I'm looking for. Maybe, let's see. See, this is what it's getting. So using the last periods or using the closing period, there should be a way. I'll try to get that tomorrow. There should be a way, straightforward way, instead of the long cut what we are trying to use here. But remember, the closing period will give you the last member of the hierarchy that you have specified. Let's say I've given calendar year, it will give you the last one in the calendar year is unknown. whether it has some data or no, it is returning the last one. So definitely I'm gonna get that closing period of non-empty values. I'm pretty confident I used it. Maybe I used this style or filter or some functions like that to get the value, but let me give a try on that. Let me revise my old books and find out where I've used or on which project I've used that. Now, similar to the closing period, this makes more sense to you because you don't have unknown at the start of it. We have opening period. So as the name says, opening period gives you the first value. If you don't know what is the start year or start month of the data or the calendar that you have, you can use the opening period function. So for the year, it is returning 2013 is the starting. So if I go for, let's say, calendar month label, right, is the name of the level. So this should give me whatever is available in whatever the first month that is available in the dimension invoice date. So it gives me 2013 of Jan. So you can use this closing period and the opening period to get the range, like starting from opening period to get up to 2015 or something like that. So for example, I hope you still remember the range function. If you go to the range functions, starting from here, get me up to maybe 2015. If I don't know what is the starting year, but I know ending year, I want the data till 2015. So then I can use this opening period and the year that I want to get. I mean, until what I want to get the data. Similarly, you can use a particular year and the closing period to go till the last year that we have in the system. So this is how you can get the you can use the closing periods and the opening period functions to get the range, and also closing period and opening period to get the first and the last member that you have in the hierarchies. Any questions? Okay. So the closing period accepts only the one parameter, but the opening period accepts multiple ones. For example, let's say two parameters. So I want to get the opening period of the calendar year. This gives me the year information. What is the first one? So if I want to get month, it gives me the month that it starts with. So the second parameter is you can specify a particular member which is a level up above or equal to the member, the level that you have specified here. So for example, if I specify 2013 Jan, what will happen is it will try to get the opening period of the 2013 Jana if that works. It is giving you 2013 Jan. The meaning of this particular parameters and for this function is get me the opening month for this member. So this member is Jan 2013. It will have only 1 month available, that is Jan 2013. So this doesn't make any sense when you specify like this. But if you specify year in the parameter 2, then this makes more sense. If you specify 2013, it gives you Jan 2013. If you specify 2014, then this gives you 2014 January. So the first month or the starting month of the year 2014. So the second parameter drives the value of the first parameter. The second parameter, if I give 2015, it gives 2015 first month. Or if you have a quarter in your hierarchy, then if you specify quarter 2 of 2014, and if you go for opening period of month, then what is the first month of the quarter 2 of 2014? It will be April 2014. So that's how you can decide what opening period, for which member you want to get the opening period. Remember, it should be always equal or greater the second parameter, which means if you give month here, it should be at least month or year. If you give date, I hope it will not work or it returns the same data. Let me give a try. So let me go for a date which is lower level than the level that I have specified in the first parameter. Let me say I'll go for 23rd 1 2013. It may return or may not. So it's not returning anything because this guy does not have any month levels. this is lower level than the month that we have specified in the first parameter. So if you want to restrict the opening period value for a particular member, particular year or particular quarter, then you can use the second parameter. It's optional. If you use it, it will be applied. If you don't use it, it will be ignored. So this is about opening period and closing period. Let's go to the next function, last periods. So last periods function, it's a pretty straightforward one. Let me copy one from here, and instead of this, let me go for last periods. So it takes two parameters. What is the first parameter say? It says about the index, how many, and the second parameter says it's let's say date. If I specify date, it will get the last periods for these dates, last two periods or last three periods. This is close. This is almost like lag, right? Lag of 12 or something. So it goes by this many periods and it will get the last periods information. So this is the most common usage for this. If you want to see if there are any other what you call parameter acceptance for this, let me quickly check. Oops. Let me go forward. Last period L. Okay. Okay, it takes only two. See, this is how it's more like the lag function, as I said. So the first parameter takes the index, and the second one is the member expression. So the index will decide how many it has to go back and get the members. And the first parameter, second parameter says from what member. So if you want to rearrange or recreate this in a different way, if you want to get the same data in a different way, you can simply go for dot lag of 2. This should give you the same result like the previous one. Oops. Current member dot lag of 2. 1 second, 18. Oh, sorry. It's going by 2, right? So you have to do lag of 2 comma lag of 1. So the difference between the lag and the last member, last periods is, in the second case, you have to use multiple functions to return the same. It's the last periods is equal to the lag plus range function. So you don't need to specify both. Instead of that, you have one simple function. So if you want to get 365 days data, you can simply go for 365 in the parameter, and it will give you last 365 days data if it is available. Unfortunately, it's not available. So if I specify 2014, you're gonna get all the 365 days data starting from 19th 2013 to 18th 2014. It will be 365 days. So the last periods is almost equal to lag or lead along with the range function. So that's it about the last periods function. So these functions are very useful when you have a lot of calculations to work using the dates. You may have to get last 12 months data or last total periods data, or compare this day's data to the last 12 days data, something like that. When you have to do like this, then you need these functions in the date dimension. Okay, so now we're jumping into our most beautiful function in in dates, the YTD, which stands for year to date. So if you specify a particular member, it should give me the year to date data, right? So this is really beautiful option. Let me show you how this works. So now year to date, which means if I start, let's say for example, if I pass this member, year to date means this value to this member. The total members are year to date, starting from the year to the date that I have specified in the member that I have specified in the function. Give me all the data, right? So if I specify a month, let's say July 2014, then I ask for year to date, then it should return Jan 2014, Feb, March, April, May, June, and July. That is what year to date. Year to date, as the name says, starting from the year to till date, whatever I specified in the second parameter, give me the data. So let me use this function because year to date also accepts a member. If I specify year to date, what will be the output? Will it return 18 days of data starting from the Jan 2004, Jan 1st, 2014? If I execute it, it's gonna return an error. Too many arguments were passed for the edit. Oops, I passed an extra parameter. Let me delete it. Now let me try that. So it's gonna return an error. The most common error when you are using year to date function for the first time. The reason is by default a year level was expected, no such level was found in the queue. So you can say that this is a valid date and this is a date and what it is crying about. If I specify year, it's saying that asking for the year level. Let's try with an year level. Let's go here and instead of this date, let me select an year and how it's going to useful. I mean, how it will be useful if I specify 2014 year to date. Let's try if this works. If I execute it, it's going to return the same error. I'm passing an year level, but still it's it's returning an error message. The reason is you have to define the dimension properties well for working this year to date. When you say year to date, this is a predefined function. It requires or it needs a hint to say that which one is an year level, which one is a day level, which one is a month level. Without that hint, this analysis services or the MDX engine can't find out what is an year level. So let's go and fix this. Where is our date dimension? This is our date dim. And let me go to the properties of it. So the first and foremost change that you have to do is the type of dimension. Instead of regular dimension, it should be a time dimension. This is the first step. And second step, the hierarchy stuff you're using, these are very important. So let me go to calendar year properties and go to the type. Instead of regular, you should specify it has a date, and in that date, it should belongs to the calendar date, and in that, it should belong to, oops, it selected the type instead. What is it? It's a years. So this year attribute says that calendar years for me. Similarly, this month label, right, is the other one. What is this data? This data is my month data. So I have to select the date dimension. It can be any calendar. If you have physical calendar, you can select this physical calendar too. But for now, I'm doing it only for the calendar. You can try it by applying the same like for physical year, physical month, and physical date, whatever. So let me go to the calendar year, and this is my months. Let me search for my months. Here is the month. So this particular, I'm giving a hint to the analysis services. This is a date dimension, and this is my calendar year. This is my calendar month, and the third one is date. This is my date. So let me go here instead of regular, go to the date, calendar, and date. So I've given a hint now to the analysis services. Let me deploy this and process it real quick. So where is my solution explorer? This is very, very important. Most of the guys will get this error when they use what you call year-to-date function. So try to concentrate or try to understand. If you have any questions, you can ask me. The processing is going to take a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, you can ask if you have any questions. So it's deploying to wide world importers database. Let me trigger the process. So now the hint is sent to the analysis services. Which one is the date dimension? And what are the year hierarchies? What are the months? What are the date members? So now I'm not going to change anything. I'm going to execute the same queries as this and see if that's going to work. City is running. Sale data is completed. We should get over. Cool. Then. So let me go back to my my SSMS and let me execute it. And now, if you see, the hint is passed. This is 2014 of Jan 18. So now it is the dates and it knows what is the year and what is the month. So it starts from the year start 2014 Jan 1st and it goes up to the end of the date. So this is why I love this function, year to date function. Let me show you. We will be discussing about the calculations in tomorrow's session on the dates and all. But let me quickly show you. one simple with member T as sum of year to date, comma, profit, and instead of profit, or let me have profit, let me have T2, the new calculated measure I've created, and let me have this dates, and let me execute it. And if you see, the year to date is calculated, and this is the value. Now you can calculate the percentage of the member starting from the year. So this member starting from the year to the end date, whatever you are seeing in the screen, this is the total. So this is how you can use functions to get the values and percentages and so on. It's just an example I showed you. This is the beauty of the YTD, year to date. If you pass a member, then it's gonna return everything that uh, starts from the year, year hierarchy or year parent of this. So this is the member I passed here. If you try to see what will be the year level member for this particular member, it will be 2014. So what will be the first member at this level for the year 2014? It will be Jan 1st, 2014, right? So starting from there, it will go till the end. So similarly, let's say, let me copy this. And if I go for, instead of a date, if I go for month, even then it will go for the year level member, and then it will come down. Which means if I go for, let's say, randomly, October 2014, what will be the year member for October 2014? It will be 2014. And what will be the first month of the 2014? Jan. So it starts from Jan and it gets the value up to the October. So this is how the YTD works. And it always expects a member down, which means year. YTD means year, right? Anything like semester, quarter, month, week, day will give proper results. If you go for a member year, then it will give you YTD. It doesn't make much difference using what year member for the YTD function. And if you don't, let's say, if you want an alternate, which means in your cube, if you have not specified what you say, the date dimension as year to date, blah blah blah, and so on, then in that case you have an alternate function, periods to date. So periods to date function is the function which I've used when I can't define what you call the attribute as a year and the dimension as a time dimension and so on. When I was forced to write an MDX query, then period to function is something which you can use to get the similar result as the YTD. Let me go to the, it accepts two parameters, and the first one is level member. So which level you want to, and which member expression. Let's say a simple example, periods to date. Here, if you see, I want to get the periods to date for the year member till August. So if this gives you almost periods to date, equal equal result set as what you're getting using the YTD. You can use any level which is under the year for the second parameter. Let's say the first one is the year, and the second one can be quarters, second one can be month, second one can be date. It's more like YTD. The difference between YTD and this one is, for the YTD you need to specify what is the time dimension and what is the year member, and what is year level, and what is the quarter level, what is the month level, and so on. But for periods to date, you don't need to do that. That's the major difference that I have observed. So let me go for the calendar year is the first parameter, and let me select, let's say, to, March of 2014, and let me execute periods to date instead of YTD. And you see, Jan, Feb, and March, all the three are written starting from the year 2014 Jan. Starting from the month Jan 2014, it returns to the member whatever I've given in the second parameter. So as I mentioned, the only difference is for this you don't need to specify whether it's a time dimension and whether it's a year level and so on. Let me select 11. This will give me the 11 members data. If I go for a day, definitely it's going to return all the days. So I hope you understood the difference between the periods to date and the YTD. The major difference is what kind of dimension or type of dimension you specify that matters here for the YTD, whereas it doesn't matter for the periods to date. It gets you what. And another advantage of periods to date is, for example, here I've given calendar year, right? If I specify month, it gives you starting from the month to that particular date. Let me show you by dragging the month. I've given March 3rd, 2013 as the member. So let me drag this month level, and starting from the month, it returns the data, right? So this is nothing but month to date. Similar to year to date, this is nothing but month to date. So one function you can use quarter to date. Periods to date works as year to date, quarter to date, week to date, month to date, and so on. And also you don't need to specify the time dimension as time dimension and the levels as the different date levels. But what I heard is the performance wise, the other one is better. YTD is better, but I don't see much difference. I mean, at least I've not seen the metrics or the stats at that level to decide which one is better. But for me, both works the same way. Now, QTD. Similar to YTD, you have QTD. So I don't have quarters in my hierarchy, but I can simply show you an example how the QTD works, or simply write a query. So always remember this should be a date or month or anything that is less than quarter, less than or equal to quarter. If you specify year, it won't work anything. It won't return anything. So instead of YTD, it should be QTD. That's it. This should work if you have quarter level in your hierarchy. The next one is month to date. So the same stuff, but MTD. Here, this result set, if I specify the same value here, whatever I have used for the periods to date and specifying the month level, if I use this returns the same result set as the periods to date. So the periods to date function can be used for MTD, YTD, QTD. For QTD, what you need to do, you need to specify the quarter level here, and it gets all the values starting from the quarter to this value of the quarter. So this is the first quarter. March means first quarter. So starting from Jan 1st, 2013, it returns data up to 3/3/2013. Similarly, you have one more function, week to date. So again, it's the same. We don't have a week hierarchy. It will be working as the same way as YTD or year to date and so on. And what you need to do is you need to specify WTD, which means week to date, and you need to give any member which is less than or equal to week level. What is less than or equal to week level? Under week, it will be only date, right? So you need to specify date. Let's quickly see what will happen if you give higher level member as part of the parameter value. So MTD means month to date. So it should be provided with either month or anything less than month. If I specify month, this will be the output. It gives you that month value. And if I specify anything less than month, it starts from the month 1 and it gives you value until then. So let's see what will happen if I give any level member that is above this month. So calendar year is above this month. So when I try to execute this, month to date doesn't make sense for when I pass 2014. So 2014 is not less than or equal to month level, right? So month to date, it should be always month or less. Year to date, quarter to date, it should be quarter or less value as the parameter value. And week to date, it should be week or less. Similarly, year to date, it should be year or less. And for all these replacement, you can use periods to date. So periods to date can be a week to date, year to date, quarter to date, month to date, anything. But remember, whatever you specified in the first parameter, that decides whether it's a week to date or month to date or year to date. In this case, it's a year to date. To change it to the month to date, simply specify month in the first one. So this starts with the month, and let me give, instead of 3, let me give 23. It should return me 23 days data starting from March 1st, 2013. So this is the beauty about periods to date. I love periods to date function, which can be used for any time calculations like any of these four: YTD, MTD, QTD, and WTD. And also, if you have semester, you can have semester to date, but there is no semester to date function in MDX. But you can use periods to date to get semester to date value also. That is the beauty of periods to date. So these are the time calculations which you will be using more and more in the SSAS calculations. And we will be revisiting calculations in tomorrow's session, and we will be talking a little bit about the subcubes in tomorrow's session. So with that, our SSAS and MDX sessions will end. So tomorrow is the last session. If you have any questions, come up with the questions, or even after the sessions, you can mail me. Whenever I get time, I'll respond to your questions. Thank you for joining, guys. See you tomorrow, same time. Have a great day.